What is up, everybody? I'm No Lux Given here with your afternoon snap, and today I am going Goblin mode into the Space Throne. That was yesterday's featured location, and I played these games basically right before the featured location went away, so you're getting this video today. But this deck has a ton of really fun and powerful ways to take advantage of the featured location. I wouldn't necessarily recommend just playing it otherwise, but I will throw it on the screen in case Space Throne comes back as a featured location. I do think this deck is pretty powerful. Was able to gain about 70 or 80 cubes yesterday. The primary game plan is to green Goblin into the Space Throne, and the reason that I am playing Nightcrawler is so that way my opponents can't green Goblin me. Nightcrawler is just going to take up the Space Throne. I've done similar things with Bar Sinister as the featured location, and then once the Space Throne comes around, we can move the Nightcrawler out and throw the green Goblin in. So that is the base plan. I think that that is a pretty straightforward way to take advantage of today's featured location, and we are able to draw green Goblin on turn 3. So I'm going to go ahead and just throw it into that location. We also have some bigger cards like Atuma and Professor X to try to take advantage of the Space Throne, and we can see that my opponent is going for the exact same game plan with the green Goblin, but we do have some other ways to still gain an advantage over my opponent. I played Armor on turn 2, so now I can drop Atuma into that same lane and not have to worry about Atuma's drawback. And we can see my opponent playing a few very similar cards to us, and I think they're actually playing a Galactus Destroyer deck by the looks of it, so a lot of pretty similar tools here. I do think that you could run Galactus in this deck as well. You either throw the Green Goblin or the Hobgoblin into the Space Throne, and then Galactus can just take it over by himself, which is pretty cool. But I found that Destroyer is just the best possible thing that you can do with the Space Throne is the featured location. Obviously, just for one card, nothing is going to be able to beat the Destroyer itself in the Space Throne location. Obviously, we were able to do something pretty cool here with the Professor X into the Hobgoblin play. Didn't know that's what was coming off my opponent, but I definitely looked smart predicting it there with the Professor X. But the other play that we had, let's just say that my opponent beats us with a random 5-cost card in Vibranium Mines. What we would actually get to do is play our Destroyer, destroying our own Green Goblin and winning the Space Throne 0 to -3. So that's another option that you can do if you butt heads with Green Goblin against your opponent, and why I think Destroyer is just the best 6-drop to be playing. I wanted to show off one more fun game with this deck, and in this one, my opponent snaps on turn 1, presumably because they've got an easy way to fill the raft and get a free 6-cost card. So we are just going to lead off with Nightcrawler, and in this one, I just throw Nightcrawler right into the raft, so that way we can at least try to battle for this location. We don't have any other 1-cost cards in the deck, but we can at least play 1 card there each turn and fill the location and then move the Nightcrawler out later on. We actually get extremely lucky with Central Park as our 3rd location, which will now just allow me to fill the location with Cosmo. Not going to go for the Green Goblin there because my opponent is going to play into the raft this turn themselves. And we actually get another Destroyer as our free 6-cost card. And like I said, I think Destroyer is the best 6-cost card that this deck can play. So really, really happy about that one. We can also take a look at some of the other interesting card choices that I've slid into the deck. Polaris is another kind of interesting way to win the Space Throne, and then because I'm playing both Polaris and Nightcrawler, I also threw Miles Morales into the deck, and I thought that that would be a fun one to try out. On turn 4, I'm just going to play the Green Goblin, and then I'm going to play a Destroyer, and I decide to play Destroyer this turn because my opponent has a Daredevil. So next turn, they're going to get a decent eye on what my plan is regardless. So I figure let's just Green Goblin them and Destroyer them right now while the shields are down, while they don't know what's going on, and we can hit them for 15 power. And now that we've given them a green goblin in that third location, we could actually kind of mess with them a little bit here with Polaris. Now, Polaris is kind of tricky because it will mean that then my opponent has the opportunity to play a card into the raft, because it's pretty likely that we're going to steal something out of the raft. So there is a little bit of a risk there, but I'm not super concerned with winning or losing the raft, rather, because we still have another destroyer that we get to play on that final turn of the game. So that's the idea. And now my opponent gets to see this, and they get to see that our plan here is to make them fill up Central Park and kind of lock them out of that location as well. So they're kind of in a weird spot here, because if they want to interact with Central Park, they're forced to do so this turn. That kind of baits my opponent into an awkward play. Obviously, we're playing additional cards into Central Park beyond just the destroyer, but my opponent is going to wind up throwing a Shang-Chi into Central Park, so that way they at least have a shot at killing this destroyer, and that will even make more sense in one moment here. But for this turn, they're going to Shang-Chi the destroyer, and what's awkward is because we've given them the green goblin, they only have 4 power in that location, and we're able to win it with the other 2 cards. So now I can just move Nightcrawler out of the raft and throw Destroyer in there, and that should lock up the game pretty easily. We are losing by 7 currently in the raft, 7 to 14 after we move Nightcrawler out. So if my opponent plays nothing this turn, contributes 6 more power, they'll be up by 13, and then we'll still get to swing it in our favor with Destroyer, and Nightcrawler also gives us a little bit more padding in that Central Park location. Now it makes sense why my opponent needed a Shang-Chi. Their card out of the raft was null, but it's not going to be enough, and we take them for 8 cubes. That's going to be it for me today. Thank you very much for watching. I'm No Lux Given. Peace.